Violence against women. Now, these are three words you hear quite a lot in the media. Don't quite hear the opposite, but that's another story. So, what is the cause of violence against women? For the most part, from what I can see, the media would have us believe exactly what feminists have been parroting for the last 50 years or so. That violence against women is the result of a patriarchal system. And that, of course, meaning that men are pretty much almost entirely responsible, or at least the male mindset is, for violence against women, seeing as it is dominant in society. As for evidence, you can imagine that such a claim is pretty difficult to prove. But feminists really have tried, I guess. You see feminists like Sarkeesian who will use things like violence in video games or movies or TV shows against women. And they'll use that as evidence that men are in some way brainwashed to want to harm women in some way.
Players are meant to derive a perverse pleasure from desecrating the bodies of unsuspecting virtual female characters. It's a rush streaming from a carefully concocted mix of sexual arousal connected to the act of controlling and punishing representations of female sexuality.
Now, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever, but correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this exactly the same argument as violent video games cause serial murderers to kill people, or the Columbine massacre was a result of, like, Grand Theft Auto and Gene Simmons? Things in media have been blamed for the misfortunes that have befallen our world for the longest time. And I think that pretty much all of these claims have never been really thoroughly examined or proven. Just because you add a feminist angle to a dead, tired old argument, it does not make it any more credible. As a gamer, you can imagine that I find this claim pretty ludicrous. And for many reasons. Firstly, I don't think that there are many games out there in the mainstream media that would advocate violence against women, given the amount of backlash it gets. And for those that do, most of them aren't in the mainstream. So, the only real example I can even think of off the top of my head where this is kind of condoned is Grand Theft Auto, where you can, like, beat up a hooker for her money and just drive off. But if feminists are going to point to that, then why don't they point to the whole list of other things you can do in Grand Theft Auto? Like steal cars, run over police officers, shoot the SWAT officers, like drive tanks everywhere and destroy shit. There's so many things you can do in Grand Theft Auto. Why only focus on the violence against women and somehow claim that this is purely a misogynistic game, when this is just a game where you are allowed to do a whole list of terrible, evil things. Beating up hookers being one of many things you can do. Second, this might be my weaker point, but I really have to ask, if media was as influential as feminists make it to be in the instrumental changing of the mindset of guys to condone violence against women, then why then do the vast majority of people who play, say, Grand Theft Auto don't turn out to be sadistic, evil, destructive serial killers who are misogynistic and terrible people? I mean, apart from all the crazy conspiracy theorists and all the feminists who are quick to pin the blame on anything they don't like just to further their own ideology, any objective source will honestly have picked up something at this point, right? If video games were really this influential in brainwashing our kids. Would some government agency not try and put their focus on this and come to the logical conclusion that these things really do cause mass shootings and whatnot? The thing is that no such evidence exists, and there is a reason for that. While it is true that some of the, like, more recent young men who've turned out to be serial killers in our day happen to watch violent videos or play violent video games or whatnot. You know, all these things can be watched by a normal person and it won't turn them into a serial killer. Do you know why? It's because normal people understand the distinction between fantasy and reality. And as bad and as uncomfortable as it might make people, I think sometimes it's perfectly natural for us to want to destroy things in Grand Theft Auto or to kill a bunch of people in Call of Duty. But the thing is, what most guys, myself included, understand is that killing someone in Call of Duty and getting a kill streak versus killing a bunch of people in real life are two completely separate things. To say that a few psychos in history saw a violent movie where violence was portrayed against women, or they beat up a bunch of hookers in Grand Theft Auto, and they themselves thought it appropriate to do the same in real life, does not constitute a good argument for why these games, or these movies, or this form of media perpetuates violence against women. And I know this is going to be an inevitable result of making a video like this, but people are going to accuse me of being a misogynist. Oh, are you advocating for violence against women? No, and I never said that. All I'm saying is that if you want to fight for a cause like fighting against violence against women, at least do it honestly. At least do it with evidence and reasonable logic, not with shitty fear-mongering tactics like this that are just very poorly veiled attempts of you actually just trying to push your ideology and your personal tastes onto other people in the guise of doing it for the public good. It's despicable. And the worst part is that you do it all in the name of equality. The hypocrisy is honestly unimaginable. And yet, this is modern day feminism at its finest. May the truth always be heard. Peace.